I'm so excited today for everything that's happening at the intersection of law and politics on Popac Live. I had to wear my Iron Man glasses. I'm Michael Popok. Let's get to the intersection. It's burning down. Speaking of burning down, Pete Hegseth. I've never seen a person actually thrown under a bus. And then I watched Tulsi Gabbard and Mike Waltz and John Ratcliffe, who are at the very apex of our national security, one by one blame Pete Hegseth, which is appropriate, for the what I'll call Signal Gate, which is one of the biggest breaches of national security in our history, when Mike Waltz fat-fingered, probably typing JD Vance, and added instead Jonathan Goldberg of the Atlantic magazine to a Signal chat chain of all of our highest officials talking about bombing the Houthis, an Iranian-backed terrorist group in the Suez area. I refer to them as the Hamas Navy or Air Force, to try to take them out. War planning. Pete Hegseth says there was no war plans, really. You had target packages, a lethality, how they were going to hit it. And this same group that was so exercised about Hillary Clinton's email server, she needs to go to jail. Now what? I'm going to break down what's going on. The new hearings, Democrats are loaded for bear and are sharpening their knives, and they're not letting this story go, and therefore we're not going to either. Donald Trump heard about the result. He said out loud, they did what? I'm not making that up. John, the head of our, Mike Johnson, the head of our Speaker of the House on the MAGA side, he said, they were just doing their job, Caitlin. They were just doing their job, revealing confidential, top secret, classified information to the public. Why don't they just put everything on closed circuit TV? Why don't we just have C-SPAN sit in the war room and in the tank while they discuss all these things? Why not? Then I'm going to turn to this continuing, developing story. The further that Donald Trump and his administration thinks they're getting away from the Alien Enemies Act and Judge Boasberg, they're getting dragged in, and now they're swirling the drain. We got 2 or 3 different stories going on at the exact same time I want to update you on. Judge Boasberg has renewed his temporary restraining order against the use of the Alien Enemies Act to deport people without due process and send them to a notorious killer jail in El Salvador, where more than 375 people have died in the last 2 years from quote unquote natural causes. Because if you think being beaten to death is a natural cause, then you would agree with the El Salvadorian government. Is this the America that we woke up in? Is this the America that you want to live in? The America where even the accused, even the ones accused of the most heinous crimes, I'll concede that they are alleged to be narco-terrorists, a part of a drug gang that rapes and sells drugs to children and murders people. I'll accept all of that. I just won't accept that we live in an America where they're not given due process or a fair hearing or a right to a lawyer or to have a judge decide whether they're sent to their death. That's the part that galls me. We'll talk more about the Boasberg decision. The Trump I was called them the organization like they're a criminal organization. The Trump administration's filing today that they're going to be asserting state secrets privilege, a judge-made privilege made by the United States Supreme Court that doesn't exist in any books, to try to hide from the judge whether they really violated his orders or not when they continued to deport people and put them on planes on purpose to avoid his jurisdiction. Can't tell you, Judge. You don't deserve to know. You're not qualified to know. Go pound sand. I'll do a whole act out like drunk Shakespeare of what their filing says and the basis for it. And then an appellate court, this is all the same matter, an appellate court took up the hearing because the Trump administration made an emergency application to the D.C. Circuit Court, next stop Supreme Court, and a 3-judge panel heard it. And the issue was whether they're going to block Boasberg's temporary injunction while they consider the appeal. And Judge Millett had some choice words that ended up emblazoned on a giant 12 or 14 point font headline. The Nazis were treated better by the Americans before they were deported under the Alien Enemies Act They lived in America during World War II. And let's look at, the Trump administration spends a considerable amount of time talking about the unitary superpower president. The executive branch is occupied by one person. You got to defer to that one person. You can't review anything he does. All the judges have to bow their heads. Everybody has to look the other way. Let him do whatever he wants. I mean, this is the basic theory. Nobody can check him. Nobody can balance him. Nobody can stop him. Stop me if you can. Catch me if you can. That's the presidency. That's their argument. And you've got Congress, who has a role, I grant you, in the co-equal branches of government to be a part of the checks and balance. But they haven't exercised any part of it to try to check the worst instincts of Donald Trump. Instead, what have they been doing? Instead, all they've been doing is they've been bending over and bending down and bending the knee to Donald Trump and letting him do whatever he wants. I'll give you an example. The Alien Enemies Act. You got to have a declaration of war. They haven't even declared war. Against who? The gang is now the government of Venezuela. We're in a war with Venezuela. That's news to Venezuela. So the GOP has said a couple of choice things about what they're going to do to supervise not the president but the federal courts, including a comment by Speaker of the House Johnson. Another comment by Speaker of the House Johnson, and then we've got the United States Supreme Court, who is currently considering whether they're going to block or permit an injunction issued by Judge Alsop out of San Francisco to stop the firing of 16,000 probationary workers, including at the Department of Defense. Sounds like the Department of Defense, headed by Hegseth, needs all the brain power they can get, even at the lower ranked level. And the Supreme Court has an emergency application that's coming up through Justice Kagan, which I'll talk about. And then we're going to talk lastly on Popac Live. I'll pick up in Greenland, because now it looks like it wasn't enough that JD Vance is going to the dog sleds, because this administration's going to the dog sled races in Greenland on a humanitarian tour, while Donald Trump threatens to take Greenland by any way it can, including force. The prime minister's incoming and outgoing of Greenland said it's an assault on their dignity. It's an insult to the people of Greenland. 75% don't want to see Donald Trump, don't want to join with the United States. While, get this, you think they're getting out of town for a reason? 2 people of the breach brigade, as the Huffington Post calls it, related to the signal gate that I talked about, the top secret Houthi attack that was revealed to Jeffrey Goldberg of the Atlantic. 2 of the major participants in that chat, JD Vance, the vice president, and Mike Waltz are both going where? Greenland. It just got announced that JD Vance was going to join his wife for the dog sled race, but then he spilled the beans. He said it's not really about the dog sled race; it's really about national security. I'm going to go visit the Air Force base and the space base up in Greenland, and then we're gonna take over this country whether they like it or not. It's like a hostile takeover. And then finally, had you heard the news? Alina Habba is being groomed for a federal judge position, or maybe to take over for Attorney General and Pam Bondi's had enough, or maybe, shudder the thought, a spot on the United States Supreme Court. We've got the grooming of Alina Habba by Donald Trump. Trump grooming Habba. Those words just naturally go together. Here we've got Donald Trump replacing or repositioning people in his cabinet. He's taking the guy, Mr. John Giordano, who just got confirmed by the Senate to be the New Jersey lead prosecutor, U.S. attorney for the District of New Jersey. He's now sending him off to an African nation to be the diplomat, to be the ambassador, opening a spot for Alina Habba to move from the White House, talk about failing up, to move from the White House counselor's position to the top prosecutor job in New Jersey, where she's from. Why do I think they're doing that? Because Giordano really wanted to go to this small African nation of Namibia? No, because they want to rehabilitate Alina Habba so that when the time comes, they can say, She was the U.S. attorney for New Jersey, even though she was fined by a federal judge for filing bad faith filings over $1 million. She was responsible for all of Donald Trump's major losses to E. Jean Carroll in the sex abuse case. She was sanctioned by another state court judge. She entered into a shady payoff scandal to pay off somebody who claims that she was seduced or groomed by Alina Habba to settle a case on the cheap against Donald Trump. And what better way to rehab her than send her off for a year or two to be the U.S. attorney for New Jersey, a state that Donald Trump hates because he keeps losing there every time there's a presidential election, but needs because his Bedminster golf course is there. He loves having people in his back pocket in the places where he has golf courses, or homes. In New York, he puts Mayor Adams in his back pocket, and he assigns Jay Clayton, who's a golfing buddy of his, to be the U.S. attorney in Manhattan. He puts Alina Habba, U.S. attorney in New Jersey. See the pattern here? Going to cover it all on Popac Live. Now listen, I want to tell you how humbled I am, despite the glasses, how humbled I am by what's happening here on Popac Live and on the Legal AF YouTube channel. We are not only at 520,000 or so on the Legal AF YouTube channel in just about 6 months. We just added a group of amazing commentators led by Dave Aronberg, coming off of another Midas Touch YouTube channel. Used to be called True Crime. I think it's Court Authorities. They're now with me. They're now with us together on Legal AF. Dave Aronberg will be doing regular hot takes on Legal AF, along with some of his other contributors there. Here on Popac Live, which I'm doing every Tuesday night, which we're slow walking into a podcast, if you haven't noticed. Okay. That is, me different than me doing it with Ben or Karen Freeman Ictifilo on Legal AF, where, Ben sort of, drives the train on Saturday and I'm sort of the color person. And, I'm the kind of executive producers on Wednesday and all of that. Here, I get just to be completely untethered. I get to be unplugged. I don't pull punches. I take questions. I give answers. You can't put me in the corner. Fill in any of your pop culture and movie references. And I'm enjoying it. And you guys are supporting it. My audience is supporting it, which I'm humbled by it. We're doing 400,000 or 500,000 every episode, every week here at the intersection of law and politics, Popac style. It's just so rewarding for me to be able to interact in different ways, in different shapes of our audience. So again, thank you very much. Let's dive in. Let's talk about the breach brigade, as HuffPost calls it, and the signal gate. I'll catch you up if you've missed only parts of it, and I'll tell you where we are, why Hegseth is being thrown under the bus. Jeffrey Goldberg drops a bombshell on The Atlantic, which I subscribe to, which he said, I was given secret war plans by the Trump administration, and I live to tell about it, something like that. And when you read the article, it turns out that some idiot named Mike Waltz, who's our national security advisor for Donald Trump, he's the guy off to Greenland to go try to shake a fist at the people of the Greenlanders and tell them, you better come along while I'm here at the space base. That Mike Waltz. The same Mike Waltz, by the way, who attacked mercilessly and called for the prosecution and imprisonment of Hillary Clinton because of her email servers being used. He apparently fat-fingered creating a chat group on Signal. You may not know about Signal. I think it's like WhatsApp with slightly better encryption. I mean, I know that the Signal CEO came out because she's trying to sell a product. She's like, I know people say it's not encrypted. It's the gold standard for private communications, right? Private communications, like, me sharing something with a friend or a chat or discussion group. And I don't want the gold standard when you're talking about, war plans and target packages at the highest level in a group chat involving the vice president, the secretary of state, the national security advisor, Stephen Miller of the White House office, Tulsi Gabbard, the head of 14 intelligence agencies, and the director of the CIA. I want something more than the gold standard that I can get in the App Store. How about bank level encryption? How about Pentagon level encryption? And John Ratliff, who's our CIA director, he said, well, I was told that the Biden administration had approved the signal for CIA use. Oh, here we go. One of the things that we got from the reporting from the Atlantic is that their messaging, which they discussed on the Signal app, on the Signal chat, was the people aren't going to understand why we're attacking the Houthis. They don't know who they are. They're not going to understand why we're attacking them to clear the maritime channel, the shipping channel in the Suez Canal area. They're not going to understand why that, because 50% of the traffic through there is Europe, not America. America only has like 2% of the traffic. So we better come up with better messaging. Yeah, let's put on a messaging play. And the messaging that they talked about in Signal was blame Biden. Again, blame Biden and talk about Iranian fundraising or funding of the Houthis. And that's what they did. And then John Ratliff, in his response to some questions, harsh questions during the Senate today, said, well, I was told that the Biden administration approved Signal. Did they approve it for highly classified, top secret, weapons grade package information about bombing the Houthis, the who, what, where, and why, and when? And that's what Hegseth got thrown under the bus. Like I said, I never saw that before, but now I understand exactly what it looks like. Tulsi Gabbard first, who's the head of our intelligence community. She's the only intelligence director we've ever had that's lacking in intelligence. There's no other way to put it. She says, well, as far as I know, nothing in that chat would have been classified from an intelligence gathering standpoint. That may be true, from their world. But she deferred and she said, as to the aspect of the chat that dealt with the target package and the weapons to be used and the timing of it, what Donald Trump blithely calls a glitch, because that's what he called it. He said he said they did what, and then he said it was a glitch, right? So she said that glitch was Hegseth's fault. And then Ratliff joined in, because why not, and said it was Hegseth's fault. He's in charge of classifying what should or shouldn't be discussed on a Signal application. That's not for us to decide. That's for the Department of Defense. That would be the Secretary of Defense. Hegseth, this is the second time in 60 days that Hegseth's been thrown under the bus. He already undermined Ukraine before a major negotiation with the Russians and a breach of national security and diplomacy. And here, he willfully participates on Signal in a discussion about war plans. Now, he's pissed off now that they caught him. So now he barks at the reporters, there's no war plans! Like that, no, there's no war plans! Well, according to your colleagues on the Signal chat, whether there were or there weren't, whether they were classified or not, they are, it's up to you. And then to throw Hegseth a life preserver in the form of an anvil. John Ratliff, the head of our CIA, said that in his view, pre-decisional information about a target, which is exactly what just happened, would be classified. Then what are you doing on Signal? Now, how did it happen? Mike Waltz sets up this chain. Here's my one speculation, and I had somebody text me about it recently. JG, Jonathan Goldberg, editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, is not somebody you would normally be on a Signal chat with if you're the security head, national security director, but he might have had him on his Signal, or Goldberg is on Signal. So, or he's maybe communicated with him before about prior stories. JG, if you look at your keyboard, is very close to JD, JD Vance. In other words, the G and the V. Let's try that again. The G and the V on the QWERTY keyboard of your typewriter are right above each other. You could easily fat finger. Instead of doing JV for JD Vance, you hit JG. And you pull up Goldberg, and then he just sat there in the chain. We've all been in text chains, WhatsApp chains, Signal chains, maybe. He just sat there, all these little bubbles, and he was listed as JG, and nobody said, who's JG? I've been on conference calls where people have come in, and I don't recognize a number. I stop the conference call to say, who is this number? Because I'm trying to protect, let's say, attorney-client privilege. You'd think at the highest levels, they would at least do that. Here's a public service announcement to our highest level of intelligence and national security and defense leadership. Change your passwords. You don't think the Chinese were reading that and peering into that, your use of Signal, because it was scrambled and encrypted for private conversations, the gold standard? You don't think the Chinese hackers can get through the gold standards? They were living in Verizon servers during the campaign and peering into Donald Trump and JD Vance's traffic and text messages. You don't think they're doing it now? Does anybody think that this administration is very confident in the way they handle top secret and military grade information and war plans led by Donald Trump? How soon we forget Mar-a-Lago and his sticky fingers of taking the war plans for the Iranians and other people and just showing them to people and acting like it was his? Of course, this administration is going to have a major security breach and scandal in its first 60 or 65 days. Of course. This would never happen to Joe Biden. Joe Biden, well, you could say a lot about Joe Biden, but he was an institutionalist that respected things in 50 years of being in government. He knew not to use Signal. I know there's been some jokes like, you wouldn't be able to know what Signal is. I don't care. It never happened. It never would happen because he had mature adults in the room, like Jake Sullivan, his National Security Council advisor, like Kamala Harris, like him, like the Secretary of State, competent people. So you can't blame Joe Biden for this. So Hegseth may not be long for this world of being the head of the Department of Defense. Although Donald Trump, the inside reporting, which I'm sure they're trying to get to the bottom of with lie detectors, is that he said they did what? What happened? But then later said, it was a glitch. I love the glitch. Like it's Westworld. Remember that show on HBO? And a character got a glitch? One of these automatronic robot people. And then two guys in white coats would take them away while they were glitching. This whole entire administration is glitching. That's all we're watching is one big glitch. I demand more in my president and their administration than glitches. I love this administration. The stock market, the economy, tariff policy is tanking everybody's checkbook, purse, wallet, and the rest. And the best the Treasury Secretary can come up with is, it's a needed correction. It's a short-term correction. The Commerce Secretary, we're going to totally throw over the game board of Social Security. We're going to make it harder for everybody to get it. We're going to make it, you got to phone in every week on it, like you're calling into your probation officer, like you're wearing an anklet. We're going to abuse effectively the most disadvantaged and underprivileged in our society and the weakest, older people and people with handicaps and disabilities. And his response during an interview was, who we're trying to catch with being late with checks, who calls and complains the loudest? Fraudsters. My mother-in-law, 94 years old, she doesn't complain when a Social Security check doesn't show up. Right, because her son-in-law is a multi-billionaire. I'm not, and by the way, why is she getting Social Security? Shouldn't you turn that back in? It's because your family doesn't need it? How about that? How about mother-in-law turns back Social Security check? Musk thinks it's a Ponzi scheme. Why don't you turn it back? All right. So does Hegseth survive? Leave a note here tonight. We'll discuss it. Signalgate is not going away. JD Vance thinks he can skip off to Greenland to join Mike Waltz and hope this story dies down. This ain't a story. This ain't a glitch. This is one of the most major national security scandals in the last 100 years. Yeah. And we're certainly not going to let it go. And we know they didn't let it go when it was something relatively minor, like Hillary Clinton using a personal email to exchange some documents. They never got out. They never got leaked. She didn't hit attach and send it to the New York Times. Even Hillary Clinton had a great sense of humor on this. She put up on social media yesterday those eyes from the emoji eyes. Like, I see this, and like, you got to be kidding me. Right. That said it all. I loved every part of that. So let's move on to Congress, since we're already in Congress talking about the hearings about the breach brigade. And you've got Mike Johnson, who, when he's not saying that there was no real breach because it wasn't classified, and therefore it was just professionals doing their job. If it's not classified, then put it all on C-SPAN. I should be able to watch and listen and download all of the private conversations on the text message a chain of our highest level of leaders. Right? I should be able to. It's not classified. Now, when did war not become classified? They're using war powers to try to deport people. So against that backdrop, Mike Johnson, who's a doormat, who decided to take to his microphone to try to deflect, and he said the following, a version of the following. Federal judges are out of control, and single judges should not be allowed to issue injunctions that bind the rest of the country. And we're going to have to do something about it. We control the power of the purse string. We control, as the Congress, funding for federal courts. We could eliminate district courts. Maybe he wanted to say district judges. Yeah, I don't think that's going to go over very well. If your way to check and balance the federal courts is to eliminate courts you don't like, and to try to pass new rules, in particular that federal judges can't issue remedies of injunctions nationwide, that's already going to backfire. May I remind you how many nationwide injunctions, especially came out of the Fifth Circuit or out of the Louisiana in favor of the Trump administration, like blocking a woman's right to choose and use medicated abortion. That was a single federal judge in Texas binding everybody in a national injunction, all women in a national injunction, or blocking Biden's attempt to give student loan debt relief or COVID policy. That's all right-wing, MAGA, Trumper judges, single judges issuing injunctions. And I don't think it's going to be found to be constitutional for a court, for the Congress to limit the inherent authority of a judge to fashion a remedy that matches the violation of the Constitution or the statute. I just don't think, and there's just going to be litigation over that. Plus, I'm not sure there's political will for that either. MAGA is not as unified as people think. There are plenty of other Republicans and libertarians who won't believe in that and won't join Mike Johnson. But he's just doing what Donald Trump ordered him to do. That's all. He ordered him to take to the podium, and he ordered this guy to start articles of impeachment against judges, and this guy to do this, and Chuck Grassley in the Senate to do that. It's all an elaborate game that's being controlled by Donald Trump in using, this ecosystem that he developed between his rapid response team in the White House communications office, paying social media influencers, activating and surfing behind Russian trolls and other disinformation and misinformation campaign, activating Elon Musk to attack federal judges, the press secretary to do the same. Then you move on to Congress to do the same with the MAGA people there who are beholden to Donald Trump for their political success. And that is the ecosystem and the echo chamber that we're watching. I'm going to cover this whole thing about federal judges. We're going to talk about Alina Habba and the Supreme Court on an emergency application to stop the rehiring of 16,000 probationary workers. And finally, we'll end the show on Greenland and what Usha Vance, JD Vance, and Mike Waltz are doing there, all on Popac Live. First, we've got sponsors, which is great. Shows that there's a real audience and a commitment to what we're doing here on Popac Live. We curate the sponsors. We try them out. We test them out. We like them. If you got some disposable income, you think these products are interesting, they appreciate us, and it's a way for us to vote for them with that. So we're going to do that. And while you're here listening to me, take a minute and go over to that channel that I curate with the Midas Touch Network called Legal AF MTN. Hit us there. We're going up to 8 hours a day of programming at this same intersection of law and politics. We got Court Accountability Action, Shan Wu, Dina Dahl. I got a show called Unprecedented about the United States Supreme Court. We've got the new group coming over, led by Dave Arenberg. This is the place to be. is is going to be the Legal AF channel, where we already have 500,000 subscribers in just 6 months. And now a word from our sponsors. When your car breaks down, you take it to a mechanic with no hesitation. You need it, and it's not something most guys can fix themselves. And men should think the exact same way about ED, but the reality is you might be hesitant to seek help. Thankfully, through HIMS, you can get access to personalized ED treatment without stepping outside your door. HIMS is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. HIMS provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable heart mints and Viagra and Cialis and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, HIMS can help you find the ED option that works for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/legalaf. That's HIMS.com/legalaf for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/legalaf. Now, the products mentioned are chewable compounded products, which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. Did you know Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the U.S. with thousands of different plants and over 2 million happy customers? They have all the plants your yard needs, like fruit trees, privacy trees, flowering trees, shrubs, and so much more. Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to get your dream yard. Order online and get your plants delivered directly to your door in just a few days, without ever leaving home. Their Alive and Thrive guarantee ensures your plants arrive happy and healthy. Plus, get support from trained plant experts on call to help you plan your landscape, choose the right plants, and learn how to care for them. We recently moved into a new house, and it came with 2 big bald spots where grass used to be, but the prior owner's dog wore out. So we turned to Fast Growing Trees, and their plant experts' advice turned an eyesore into one of our favorite features of the yard, with a few key lime trees suited for our climate and location. Saved us all the aggravation of dealing with unknown landscapers and nurseries, too. Big yard, small yard, no yard. Fast Growing Trees has over 6,000 plants to fit any space, from indoor plants to fruit trees to full-size privacy trees and more. And their 14-point quality checklist ensures you're getting the best quality plant possible. Each plant is cared for individually based on their needs, from watering routines to the amount of sunlight, giving your plants the care they deserve from the time they start growing to when they ship to your home. Whether you're looking to add privacy, shade, or natural beauty to your yard, Fast Growing Trees has in-house experts ready to help you make the right selection, with plant experts on call to offer growing and care advice. You can talk to a plant expert about your soil type, landscape design, how to take care of your plants, and everything else you need. No green thumb required. Every plant comes with instructions and tips to take care of your new plants so they can grow to their fullest potential. This spring, they have the best deals for your yard, up to half off on select plants and other deals. And listeners to our show get 15% off their first purchase when using the code LEGALAF at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code LEGALAF at checkout. fastgrowingtrees.com, code LEGALAF. Now's the perfect time to plant. Use LEGALAF to save today. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. All right, let's turn to the United States Supreme Court for a minute. A couple of things have happened there in the last 48 hours or so. They heard a case about whether Louisiana's new maps for voting, districting, which is, how congresspeople and senators get voted in, whether because it created 2 black districts under court order out of 6 total, which doesn't even reflect the actual percentage of black people in Louisiana, but they created 2. But that wasn't good enough for white people. And so there was a group of white people who, invoking, I guess, diversity, equity, and inclusion, decided to challenge the map because there was too many black districts. And so this was a weird case where the state of Louisiana, not known for civil rights, I'll just leave it at that, had to defend 2 black districts against a bunch of white people that wanted to take it away. The reality, as demonstrated in the hearing at the United States Supreme Court, is that the reason for the districts had less to do about protecting black people and giving them at least 2 districts that are predominantly black, and more about saving the political hide of Steve Scalise and Mike Johnson of the Congress, because their districts were made more white. They got whiter, they got whitewashed, and to create and then these kind of snake-drawn, gerrymandered, political gerrymandered districts got drawn that happened to be black. So even the conservatives, mainly when I say the MAGA, Amy Coney Barrett and Chief Justice Roberts, I don't think are in favor of throwing out this map and taking away the 2 black districts. Kavanaugh asked some interesting questions to him about whether the Voting Rights Act has expired and whether we should get rid of it altogether. That's the goal of MAGA, is to get rid of the Voting Rights Act altogether. Because we're a colorblind nation now, where black and brown people don't need to be supported any longer. You get it? Yeah. So my gut, based on the oral argument this week, is that the Supreme Court is going to keep the Louisiana voting maps in place. And they're going to side with the state of Louisiana to keep and find that it was political motivations, not racial discrimination or racial matters that led to those two districts. Interesting line of question raised by Ketanji Brown Jackson. There was this back and forth about complying with court's orders. And there was a suggestion that maybe Louisiana wouldn't comply with the court's order on this. That seems to be all the rage right now. Red states and others saying they may not comply with federal orders. She sort of nipped that in the bud with some question and answer. And now we're going to wait on the ruling that'll probably come out in the next month or two before they go on their vacation. So let me turn to Alina Habba, not because I want to, but because I have to. Alina Habba has been failing up for a long time now. She's not qualified for any position she's ever held with Trump. She represented parking garages, small office, doing employment law, and whatever walked in the door in a little town in New Jersey near Bedminster, or in Bedminster near the golf course. Her biggest power move was getting in close with Donald Trump, who then apparently started grooming her. You can take that any way you want. She gets into the Bedminster golf course. She finds ways to be there when Trump's there. Trump takes a liking to her. I mean, she's effectively been Trump's arm candy during the campaign, whenever he went to things like MMA fighting. He spends an inordinate amount of time golfing and going to sporting events for pure adulation purposes. Don't you think? What time does he spend that and signing proclamations with his big Sharpie pen? It's like all he does. Every weekend he goes golfing. And when he's not golfing, he's showing up at a wrestling match or an MMA fight or football, the Super Bowl. I don't really understand it. It's just his need, his vanity need. It must be his insider group. When they see his confidence flagging, they have to trot him out in front of people that they know are going to scream his name. It's that pathetic, really. So Alina Habba, speaking of pathetic, Alina Habba, she worms her way in and she helps him settle a couple of sex harassment cases. Does that surprise you? One in particular got her into trouble, and she had to apparently settle it with a little bit of hush money payoff, as reported. There was a server at Bedminster who claimed that one of her bosses, not named Donald Trump, had sexually abused her. And Alina Habba got very close to this woman, started apparently grooming her, that's the allegations in the lawsuit, to confide in her, and Alina Habba guided her towards a relatively cheap settlement. The woman believes that Alina Habba was her lawyer and or her friend, And Alina Habba says, no, I wasn't any of those things. I work for Trump. And so this woman got bamboozled. She sued, including Alina Habba. And there was like a settlement. It wasn't secret because we reported on it, where Alina Habba had to pay that off. Alina Habba also got sanctioned in federal courts. That's why I think it's ironic that the same week that Donald Trump is going after lawyers and law firms, he just put another one on the blacklist. He put Perkins Coie on the list. He put Paul Weiss in New York on the list. He just put a new one on the list. He supposedly has a list 14 law firms long. This is all payback for the big law firms in America that wouldn't be hired by Donald Trump. And so they wouldn't pick him for their games on the playground. So now this is payback. Now, 17 lawyers that did work for Donald Trump, that's the actual number, got sanctioned, fined, indicted, convicted, and or lost their bar license, and Alina Habba is one of them. She got fined by a federal judge over $1 million, federal judge, right? She's now nominated to be a federal prosecutor, or appointed to be a federal prosecutor, because she filed a bad faith filing on behalf of Donald Trump in Southern District of Florida in front of Judge Middlebrooks, suing the Democratic Party, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Perkins Coie, the law firm, and others. And the judge said, this is a political screed masquerading as a lawsuit. Goodbye. And fined them and made them pay the attorney's fees to the other side, including Robbie Kaplan, the lawyer over there, who also represented E. Jean Carroll, who beat Alina Habba twice in federal court, where a jury found that she was sex abused by Donald Trump and awarded her money. This is the failing up aspect. She lost every major case for Donald Trump, including the $450 million civil fraud case. She got replaced at the last minute by Joe Tacopina. Remember that guy? Who also failed. So she got kicked upstairs to be a spokesperson and a lawyer for the super PAC for Trump. And I thought that's a safe rubber room for her not to get hurt. And then he moved her over to the White House as a White House counselor, like she was some sort of Kellyanne Conway or Carville or something like that. But she was none of those things. In fact, I am sure, back to my initial put baby in the corner, I'm sure they put her in a corner because Stephen Miller is running the show as White House Assistant Chief of Staff. He's really running the show back there. And I'm sure there's not enough oxygen for Alina Habba to do anything. She probably was getting frustrated. And Donald Trump wants to groom her. Remember? I'll just leave it at that. To be something other than a White House counselor and rehabilitate her with all these losses and fines and sanctions. And what better way to rehabilitate her than to shove her into a job that doesn't need Senate confirmation at the moment, which is to be the acting U.S. attorney for New Jersey, a state he needs because Bedminster is there and he likes to hang out there, doesn't want to get indicted there. So he wants to have friends as prosecutors, and a state he loathes because he's lost every election he's ever run in New Jersey. I mean, New Jersey's, it's got reddish bands in it. I'm from there. And you see some Republicans that get elected in certain counties, like the one I'm from, Monmouth County, that trends a little red. But the senators are Democrat. The Congress people are primarily in that region Democrat. Governor's been Democrat for a long time. Kamala Harris won New Jersey. You get it. So this was like beating New Jersey with both ends of the stick with Alina Habba. Yeah. And she gets to be rehabilitated in case Pam Bondi, the attorney general, needs to step down or doesn't want to last past the midterms when there's a bloodbath, hopefully. And so he slides Alina Habba in, or a federal judgeship. There's going to be a couple of hundred of those that are gonna pop up. So he slides Alina Habba into a federal judgeship on the way to a federal appellate court, like the Ninth Circuit that he's trying to make red in California, or the Second Circuit, or the Third Circuit in New York and New Jersey. And then, there's an opening of the U.S. Supreme Court. Now it's a battle between Eileen Cannon and Alina Habba, or both. People laugh when I say that, or shudder to think it could happen. It could happen. He's not just idly placed. Anybody that thinks he's just idly placing her in a power prosecutor position that she's not qualified for, think again. And then you could see she's already political. Even though what happened? We're not going to weaponize the Department of Justice. Really? The first thing she said in that driveway portico of the White House at her press conference, Alina Habba, was, I'm going to the she almost called New Jersey a cesspool. The criminality in New Jersey in the backyard of Cory Booker, the senator, is unprecedented. I'm going to go shut it down. I don't know what she's talking about. There's always crime in every place. New Jersey has a lot of financial interests, a lot of pharmaceutical interests. It's one of the larger states economically. It's had the organized crime there for a number of years. But the last major person who was prosecuted and convicted for over 10 years in prison is Robert Menendez, the senator for New Jersey, who's a Democrat. So the New Jersey office knows how to prosecute crime. What does Cory Booker have to do with crime in Newark? There's been crime in Newark, although it's cleaned itself up, since I was a child. Jersey City and Hoboken too, but now they're cleaned up. Newark will be too. Has nothing to do with Cory Booker. Last I looked, he was a senator. He's not a municipal mayor or on the town council. He's not Senator Pothole. He's got to bring home the bacon to New Jersey for sure, but he's not responsible for the crime. And the crime is trending down anyway. Violent crime was trending down because of Joe Biden and the stimulus package for a long, long time. But you see how she automatically, because Trump tells her to, goes for the jugular, and it's always political. So that's my take on Alina Habba. Again, it's acting interim. She's not going to be there for long. The other guy, John Giordano, he was a Philadelphia lawyer, a Trump bundler, check bundler, gave him a lot of money. He was at the UN at one point, and apparently they think Namibia, in Africa is very important. And it is strategically, rare earth metals and minerals. It's got one of the greatest producers of uranium around. It's democratic, and we want to keep it out of the clutches of the Chinese. So it's important strategically, which is another reason I'm sure he sent a loyalist in John Giordano there. But the guy just got confirmed 3 weeks ago. This is, again, another bumbling glitch of the Trump administration. They just can't get anything straight, and everything looks like it's ad hoc and half-ass and off the back of their backside, off the seat of their pants. So when I come back, speaking of off their seat of their pants, the takeover of Greenland, how's that going? And is anybody buying that they're just there to take in the dog races like Usha Vance, what's the first lady of the second guy called? We'll talk about it more. But first, we got a word from our sponsors here on Popac Live. Handpicked for Popac Live. They're great. We curate them with Midas Touch and Jordy Mycelis. And they know what we're going to do here. They know what our audience is all about. They know who comes watch Popac Live every Tuesdays, and we appreciate them because it's a way to show your support for the show. If you've got the disposable income, if you don't, of course, leave it in your pocket. It's not, but if you can, it is helpful. Another way to be helpful is to hit the free subscribe button on Legal AF MTN, the YouTube channel, as we continue our march towards 1 million. We're halfway there. I think we're going to get there well before our 1-year anniversary, our 1-year birthday. With your help, Legal AF MTN, hit that blue subscribe button. In the meantime, here's a word from our sponsors. The last time I went to my local mom and pop hardware store, I walked out with everything I needed, except the right-sized air filter. Why are they so impossible to find? This podcast is sponsored by Filter Easy. It's 2025. When was the last time you changed your air filters? Many homeowners don't remember, don't have time, or can't find the right size filters. Filter Easy makes changing your air filters effortless. The Filter Easy subscription service delivers the right filters to your door right when you need them. Finally, a subscription service I actually want to subscribe to. And right now, if you use my code LEGALAF, you can get 50% off your order, plus free shipping forever. Filter Easy filters are proudly made with love in North Carolina. With millions of filters shipped, Filter Easy is the #1 home air filter subscription service in the U.S. My Filter Easy filters arrived the other day, and they are amazing. No more guessing sizes, running out of filters, or living with dirty air. The delivery is my reminder to change my filters. I've got enough to worry about. Filter Easy checks one thing off my list for good. I'll never forget to change my filters again. Filter Easy is famous for their sturdy and efficient magic filters. Magic filters improve airflow, lower energy bills, and keep your HVAC system running more efficiently. Want allergens, dust, and pet dander gone? Try magic filters from Filter Easy. Almost 80% of people don't change their air filters on time, including me. With Filter Easy, I'll never forget again. Better air quality in the house means better air quality for my family. Filter Easy magic filters offer improved airflow which means cheaper heating and cooling bills. And along with their magic filters, Filter Easy carries thicker whole house filters in 2-inch, 4-inch, and 5-inch thicknesses. No matter what filter your home needs, Filter Easy has you covered. Filter Easy takes care of your air filters so you have time to take care of everything else. So head to filtereasy.com/legalaf and use code legalaf for 50% off your first order plus free shipping forever. Once again, that's filtereasy.com/legalaf for 50% off your first order plus free shipping forever. And make sure you use my promo code legalaf so they know I sent you. I wanted to get into a better meal routine this year, but between work, life, the baby, the new law firm, full-time podcasting, and everything else, planning healthy meals that actually taste good felt, well, overwhelming. That's when I found Marley Spoon, and it's changed how I cook at home. This podcast is sponsored by Marley Spoon, and I'm genuinely excited about this because it's helping me fast-track my way to eating well without all the stress. And with my code LegalAF, you can get up to 27 free meals. And for those nights when you need dinner like yesterday, Marley Spoon's new 15-minute express recipes are exactly what they sound like. Convenient, delicious, and on the table in minutes. You'll find these on every weekly menu. And if you got a few extra minutes, they have some great 20-minute options too. My personal favorite hack, they're sheet pan dinners. Literally, throw everything on one pan and boom, you're done. Same with their tray bakes that even include the tray. My favorite recent meal from Marley Spoon was their crispy salmon with cumin carrot salad. If you're really in a hurry, Marley Spoon also has delicious ready-to-heat meals. These are lifesavers when I really just don't feel like cooking. What I love about Marley Spoon is how ridiculously easy they make everything. I made their everything bagel-crusted sirloin steak last night, and it was one of those moments where you look at your plate like, I actually made this? Here's what I love. They give you over 100 recipes to choose from each week. We're talking everything from cozy comfort food like the big batch beef stroganoff to lighter options like the salmon and creamy mustard dill sauce tray bake. There's literally something for every mood. There's something really rewarding about having a reliable routine of cooking food yourself and knowing it's going to taste amazing every time. And the best part about all of this, I'm actually cooking at home more, spending less time stressing out about meals, and honestly, eating better than I have in a long time. It's like having a personal chef who's done all the planning and prepping, and you get to do the fun part this spring. Fast track your way to eating well with Marley Spoon. Head to marleyspoon.com/offer/legalaf and use code legalaf for up to 27 free meals. That's right, up to 27 free meals with Marley Spoon. One last time, that's marleyspoon.com/offer/legalaf for up to 27 free meals. And make sure you use my promo code LegalAF. Welcome back. Time to talk about Greenland. Donald Trump's had a hard-on for Greenland. I'm sorry. This is Popac Live, though. Donald Trump's had a hard-on for Greenland for quite some time. Somebody put it in his head that it could be the greatest land grab since the Louisiana Purchase, or we got Alaska. And he wants that to be part of his legacy. He knows he'll never be on Mount Rushmore. He wants Greenland. Now, we've been talking about Greenland as a strategic alliance as a country since the 1950s and the Cold War. So I get the attraction. I get the interest and the lust. And there's a lot of perfect ways to do it. They are a semi-autonomous region controlled by Denmark. They have the right to vote for their own independence. They haven't done it yet. It's a huge swath of land that is strategically important, has rare earth minerals and elements, a lot of natural resources. It's got some new maritime channels that have opened up because of the greenhouse effect and global warming that the Republicans deny have existed, but have to recognize that there's new ways to navigate around Greenland that weren't there before. But the ways that you would normally do it, especially if you're the guy that ran on the art of the deal and everything's a deal, is cut a deal with Denmark and with Greenland and get favored nation status for natural resources and rare earth elements and minerals. And if they have oil producing there, you can do that to get favored nation status over, let's say, China and Russia for the areas above it that are used for navigation now, and cut some more deals and build some more space bases and Air Force bases and other bases for American troops, and come up with some, ways to give them some extra and get close to the Danes, like that. That didn't work for Donald Trump, apparently. He decided that he's not going to sweet talk them. He's going to take it by force if he has to. First, he, like Canada, like insulting Trudeau and Canadian heritage and Canadian national pride, was going to chase them into the arms of the United States and make them the 51st president. With all of his sophomoric, Governor Trudeau, all that did was piss off the Canadians, appoint a elected prime minister who's got bigger brass ones than Donald Trump ever will in the area of economic and trade. And he's eating his lunch ever since. And, but again, favored nation status, negotiate your way out of it. Now, Donald Trump takes to Congress during the joint session speech, and he says, we need it. It's important. It's strategically important. It's important economically. One way or the other, we're going to get it, which everybody in Greenland took to mean Donald Trump's going to attack Greenland. Yeah. Could you imagine? Let me stop right there. Is there public support for attacking an ally, breaching sovereignty, and taking a country by force? The Louisiana Purchase has purchase in the title. We purchased it. We negotiated it. Alaska, all of that. Negotiation. We didn't take by force anything in this hemisphere. Well, there's a couple of places maybe. But so rather than cut the deal, they are threatening and shaking the sword and pounding their chest at Greenland. And all that's doing is pissing off Greenlanders, who are more than 80% of people from Greenland think this is a terrible idea. They hate Donald Trump, and by extension, I'm sure, America. And they don't want this deal. And the Danes don't want the deal. Denmark doesn't want the deal, and they want to respect Greenland's semi-autonomous status. I mean, Donald Trump got Greenland to do something that they've never done in 500 years, or the king of Denmark changed the coat of arms for Denmark. I reported on this a couple of months ago. They added I think it's the polar bear to represent Greenland, so they changed the coat of arms to signal to Donald Trump, back the F off and up. The outgoing prime minister, he said, this is an insult and we can't trust anything about the United States. And so did the incoming. What are they talking about? Donald Trump decided to send Usha Vance, a delegation led by Usha Vance. But on the side, we're not supposed to notice that Mike Waltz, he of the Signal Gate, he of the I accidentally disclosed war plans to the Atlantic magazine, they sent him and our energy secretary to the space base. See, we have a space base there. We had a relationship that we've blown at the same time to go get briefed. And Usha Vance takes to her TikTok, Instagram, whatever it's going to be, and says, I'm just going there to meet with the people of Greenland and to strengthen our relationship. Looks like a hostage video. Strengthen our relationships and go to the world famous, whatever the name I can't pronounce, sorry, dog races. That's all. That's all. And the prime minister responded, we can't just take that as an innocent visit of a spouse of an elected official. It's more than that. And now JD Vance, who has got to get out of town, trust me, after this breach brigade congressional thing, I'm sure they wanted to call JD Vance in. He was on the chain too, because JD Vance is on that chain, disagreeing with Trump. This is not the deep fake of was it or wasn't it JD Vance attacking Elon Musk that came out recently. A deep fake so good that even Elon Musk's own Grok AI false statement monitor couldn't determine Whether it was, he said it was likely not Elon Musk being attacked by JD Vance, not definitively. So he's got that going on earlier in the week. He's got the real signal that it's been authenticated by the White House, just to be clear. Chat in which he disagrees with the president. I'm not sure the president, the POTUS is actually contemplating or has contemplated fully what attacking the Houthis to help the European shipping channels will mean. It's inconsistent with his policies and procedures because there's now new reporting that I'll do other hot takes on that you think the public statements against the Europeans are bad. They're talking even worse about them behind closed doors. So you have that going on. So what does JD Vance or what is the White House, I'm sure, pick up the phone and say, hey, JD, you know your wife and son are going to that dog sled race? Yeah, why don't you go there also? I'm not calling Greenland Siberia, but it's Siberia for the next few days. So JD Vance tries to act tough in his social media post, and he says, Greenland is of strategic importance. It's important that I go up there and be briefed. Yeah, is that what everybody thinks? You need to go to the space to be briefed about the importance of Greenland, and you got to go to the dog sled race with your wife? This is, again, not an official visit. It's the opposite of an official visit because the prime minister's incoming and outgoing don't want them there. So there's nobody greeting them at the airport. There's no state dinner. I'm not sure what kind of palace or building there is in Greenland, but whatever there is, it's not going to be used to officially greet anybody. They just flew in, aircraft, U.S. military aircraft into the base because they can do that because they have permission to do that. And then how they're getting, I don't know, some Ubers, they use Signal for classified. Well, I assume they use, well, I'll give it to them, Uber Black. They use Uber Black SUV to get the vice president, his wife, Mike Waltz, and the energy secretary to the dog race. Yeah. And all that's doing is pissing off Greenland. I think they should just challenge it. I think the Danes should challenge Donald Trump. Say, you want Greenland, you got to fight us for it. Yeah. Pick up a weapon, mass your troops. We're ready. And then NATO can come in and protect Greenland against the United States. This is a movie of my own making, by the way. And it's ludicrous, except it's really not. At some point, in order to fight a bully, you have to punch the bully in the face and steal his lunch and eat it in front of him. And that's what we're watching, the most successful ways to do it. Sometimes you gotta do it quietly, like you gotta take the bully in the alley and then do it. That's like Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico. Sometimes you gotta punch him right in the face in front of everybody on the bus stop. That's Canada, right? That's what Canada has done and is doing. And Greenland is starting to do that too. And the European Union is starting to go that way. While everybody watches and says, how do we get out from under this this problem we call Trump? I'm going to continue to follow it. We have a great community here. I'm so honored. I'm so humbled by it. What we're building together here on the Midas Touch YouTube channel. Take a moment, slide over to the Legal AF MTN channel, the Legal AF YouTube channel that I curate along with the Midas Touch Network. And then, of course, we've got our great pro-democracy sponsors that we can't do without. I look forward to my next time with you. I'll see you next Tuesday on Popac Live. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.